Good evening. For those of you who are listening, we'll be starting in a few minutes, and we appreciate your patience.
We are ready when you are.
Okay, you're set to go?
Yes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, will you please start the meeting?
Yes, meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, I would like to call this adjourned special planning commission meeting of April 2nd, 2020 to order. Could we please have the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you lead us with that, Vince?
Absolutely, sir. All right, ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
to the
United
flag
States,
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
to
for
which
which
it
it stands,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Will the Secretary please call roll?
Yes. Commissioner Kano,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Nguyen,
Here.
Commissioner Rivera,
Here.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo,
Present.
Chair McLaughlin,
Here.
and Commission for the record, Commissioner Fan will not be present at tonight's meeting. You do have quorum.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access this virtual meeting this evening.
Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed via YouTube at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana video/live and to our website at www.santa-ana.org cc/city-meetings. The public may provide a comment on tonight's agenda item by phone during the public comment period. To comment by phone, please dial 1-669-900-9128. Enter meeting ID 315965-149, followed by the pound sign. When prompted for a participant ID, please enter pound. When the item you would like to comment on is being discussed, please dial *9. When the comment period is opened, I will call on you by the last 4 numbers listed on the caller ID. When you are called on, please state your name, your position on the matter, and your comment. You will have 3 minutes. I will alert you when your time is up. And please note, for tonight's meeting, we will not be reading comments submitted via YouTube Live. If you would like to comment, please call in via phone at the number that was just mentioned. Chair, you may proceed with describing the format for tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. The matter before us tonight was continued from the March 30th, 2020 special meeting. At that meeting, the public hearing was opened, public testimony was heard, and the public hearing was closed. The purpose of this adjourned special meeting is to pick up where the March 30th, 2020 special meeting left off, and is solely for the commission deliberation and to render a decision on the matter. Additionally, pursuant to Section 54954.3 of the California Government Code, because this is an adjourned special meeting, comments on non-agendized items will not be taken tonight. Although we will be taking comments tonight, and I'd like to have Lisa describe how that's going to take place.
Right. So as Chair McLaughlin mentioned, the public hearing was opened and closed at our meeting on Monday night. So tonight, the public still has an opportunity to address the commission on the agenda item via the public comment section. And tonight, any email comments will not be read into the record. That is not legally required. They are posted on the website. They've been submitted to the commissioners, and they will become part of the record.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward, consent calendar items. We have one consent. Do we have a motion to approve the absence of Commissioner Fan? And when you make your motion, please note who you are.
Please
Commissioner Rivera, I would like to make a
recall
motion.
that. Oh, if I may, please be
Go
aware
ahead.
that she recused herself from this meeting due to her conflict of interest.
Correct. Thank you. Appreciate that. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Yes.
Okay, so Cynthia is the motion. Second?
I'm second. Ken Nguyen.
Ken Nguyen, thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Sorry, my bad. No,
roll
we need
call.
to do a roll call. Roll call, my problem.
Yes, thank you.
Please do a roll call at this point.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Rivera, second by Commissioner Nguyen, and the roll call. Commissioner Cano?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Nguyen?
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera?
Aye.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo?
Aye.
Chair McLaughlin?
Aye.
Motion passes by unanimous consent.
Thank you. Okay, next we will move on to the business calendar. Moving on to the business calendar, this is the time and place to consider item number 1, General Plan Amendment number 2020-01 and Zoning Ordinance Amendment number 2020-02 for project located at 1109 North Broadway. Recommendations on this matter will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration at a later date. Staff will provide a brief presentation. Before we get into that, do any of the commissioners have anything to disclose at this point in time? And we'll do a roll call on that. Commissioner Cano?
Is the disclosure for up to 30 days or less than 30 days?
No, if you received any communication in the last 2 days.
Oh, none.
Okay, Commissioner Garcia,
None.
Commissioner Nguyen,
None.
Commissioner Rivera,
None.
Commissioner Leo, Contreras-Leo.
None.
Okay, myself, none. Okay. All right, staff, will you please proceed with the presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. This is an update here from the Monday's meeting where we continued due to some questions and clarity that the commission had asked for. So what I have here is next slide coming up here. Again, here's a summary that there was some discussion of the matter here. And again, the project is the One Broadway Plaza. The proposal is to change it from an office building into a mixed-use building to allow up to 415 residential units. And part of the applications, again, before you is a general plan amendment and a zoning ordinance amendment. So on this table here that's coming up on a slide here in about 2 seconds is kind of highlighting what was discussed at the meeting on Monday, where there were some questions there. So I'd like to walk through this here very briefly with you and kind of clarify some of the items. Well, one of the items that was discussed was traffic mitigation measures was raised and how the traffic mitigation measures would apply to the current project. The mitigation measures are part of the mitigation monitoring program. They're attached to the original EIR, and they're also attached to the addendum that was prepared for this updated project. So those mitigation measures all remain, and they remain as part of the project for as long as the project still is valid. Now, what the applicant has decided to do was, he agreed to do was add the Logan neighborhood as a 7th neighborhood to the neighborhood traffic studies. And so we are proposing tonight to include Logan as another neighborhood to be studied. As you know, currently there are 6 that were approved under the original project, and we're proposing to add a 7th one. In addition, the fees are proposed to be increased from $200,000 per neighborhood, which was approved back in 2004, to $300,000 per neighborhood, taking into consideration the potential cost increase to construct any potential traffic calming devices. Now, as far as the studies themselves, what's going to require is that the studies will have to be done before the project gets constructed. And then once the project is constructed and operational, another study will be done to study any changes in traffic. And based upon the before and then the after studies, that will determine what type of traffic calming devices will need to be prepared for the project. So that is the traffic mitigation portions, and that again is going to remain in the project. The other items I was discussed about was the commission wanted to know about the development agreement, which was sent out to you on Monday night. And the development agreement had several elements that had, call them community benefits. And so one of the items that the applicant has agreed to provide is, or enter into, is a project labor agreement with the different trades there. And so we're asking that PLA, as it's called for short, be provided to staff prior to issuance of any building permits. There was also within the development agreement some questions about the historic structures on the site. All the structures that remain right now on Broadway, which are a part of the project, are going to remain. So no other additional buildings or historic structures are going to be removed or eliminated or demolished as part of this project. Everything is going to remain as is. And then finally, the housing opportunity ordinance was raised last meeting as well. And there was a little a discussion about what type of method to pay for or process to comply with the code. As I mentioned at that meeting on Monday, there's 4 different ways that the applicant can comply with the housing opportunity ordinance. And it's up to the applicant to provide which way he wants to comply with the ordinance. And on Monday night, the applicant had originally agreed to provide housing on site, but based upon some additional analysis that he did with his team, he is electing to still comply with the housing opportunity ordinance, still comply, but pay the fee. And those were some of the key issues that were brought up by the commission. And again, before you, our recommendation is that you adopt the addendum to the EIR, adopt the resolution approving the general plan amendment, and adopt an ordinance approving the zoning ordinance amendment for the SD 75. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm available for any questions that you or the commission may have.
Okay, we'll do a roll call on this. Commissioner Cano, do you have any questions of staff?
I did have a question as to the new traffic report, to see if that was done. I know there was an missing the word. The new addendum, but there were new reports. I just wanted to know the dates on that. And also in regards to privacy, I'm still not familiar with that, how the project having apartments now would affect the privacy of the nearby residents. So just wanted to kind of go over that quickly. Thank you.
Okay, Vince?
Yes, okay, so the first question, Commissioner, had to do with the traffic analysis that was done with the addendum.
Yeah.
Did you have any specific questions? One was completed as part of the new addendum, because what we had to do is we had to determine if there were any new impacts resulting from this updated project. So in 2004, the traffic study considered a 37-story office building. Now it's considered a mixed-use building. And when the consultant did the traffic analysis, it's within the engineering guidelines is that residential generates less traffic trips than commercial. And because this occurred and because we were able to analyze it, you're looking at about at a minimum 60% reduction in traffic trip generation out there from the site. So because there's 60% less trips, there's no new impacts from this project and therefore no new mitigations, and then the addendum is the proper document for the project.
Thank you, Vince. So I just wanted to know the date of the new, when the consultant did the new traffic study.
I'm sorry, one more time, Commissioner?
Yes, so I wanted to get the date when the new traffic study was done by the consultant.
Oh, that was done
and
in
was this the consultant?
Yes, it was
Go
done in
ahead.
February, this February.
February.
Yes.
And then was the consultant from the developer, or was this provided by the city staff?
The consultant was hired by the developer, and city staff peer reviewed the document and provided comments.
Okay.
And then our consultant who did the addendum peer reviewed it as well.
Thank you, Vince. And then my last question was on the privacy of residential areas nearby this new building. I know that there's height and windows, so I wanted to see if that was reviewed to take care of the privacy of the residential areas.
Privacy was not reviewed in this project. It wasn't considered to be an impact, so there was no additional study or analysis done for privacy. People who worked in the office building would still have the same views overlooking the adjacent land uses as anybody living there as well. So it was not identified as an issue back in 2004 in the original EIR, nor as a part of today.
Okay, thank you, Vince, and that was it for me.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia, any questions of staff?
Just to confirm with Vince, my understanding, based on an earlier conversation with you, is that the 2002 EIR on the traffic report, the addendum compared only the traffic report as to the 2002 report, so that the addendum does not take into consideration any changes in the area in the last 18 years, correct?
That is correct. But keep in mind that when we did the EIR back in 2004, it also considered a growth factor in the numbers. So that study also kind of considered what would happen year by year by year. And I believe the build out year was 2020 for the One Broadway Plaza. Thank you, Tig. So it was done. So the study that was done back in 04 considered potential traffic impacts today. And then the addendum study basically said, you know what, with this less trips being generated, there's no new impacts deriving from the project, and therefore the addendum was the proper document. So.
And and as a follow-up, so when we're saying there's
60% reduction. It is purely based on the numbers that I think the traffic report, the analysis was actually conducted in '02 and not in '04, based on the report. So the traffic analysis, when we talk about the 60% reduction, it's based on numbers from 18 years ago. Even if there was some growth factor in it, we didn't take into account the actual raw numbers to date. Correct?
Correct, yeah, we did not go out and do new traffic counts for the study. We just counted the.
Right, and we don't know from a mitigation perspective whether or not whatever is in the addendum and in the original EIR is therefore really looking at the raw numbers, if anything has changed in the last 18 years, correct?
Well, the city, Public Works has done traffic counts and done numbers. Every couple of years, we do updated numbers. Does it take, how many often do we do?
We do, this is, good evening, this is Tate Higgins, Public Works Agency. We do traffic counts every 2 years on all the major corridors in the city. The traffic increases during the good economic years and then slows down during the lesser economic years. In general, we have seen less than 1% growth factor over many, many years.
And are you saying that was taken into consideration in the addendum?
No, what I'm referring to is
okay.
in the original study, there was a growth factor in there to get to the 2020 year.
And that growth factor is, do we know what the percentage is?
It's typically 1%. That's I can go back and see if it's in there, but it's typically 1%. It's 1% per
and I'm
year.
sorry, I missed your name
It's
from Public Works, so I apologize.
it's TAG.
Hey, Higgins.
Okay, thank you. And you said that you understand, based on the reports that you guys conduct, Public Works conducts every 2 years, that the overall growth is less than 1%. Is that the overall growth for the entire city, or for the specific geographic area that we're discussing?
That would reflect the entire city. Every street varies, but and over a 2-year period it can vary. But again, over the long term, that's about what we see is around 1%.
Commissioner?
So Tay, if I could just jump in on what Norma is talking about. Are we saying, you're saying you're doing a study every 2 years, and the assumption is that, or the outcome is that you're seeing about a 1% increase for every 2 years, or for every year?
It's for every year. That's typically what we see is about every year, and of course, as I
Not
mentioned
every year.
earlier,
So that would say that between 2002 and current conditions, we've got about an 18% increase in traffic.
it actually would be a little bit more than that because it's cumulative. It's
Cumulative.
it's compounds.
Right. Okay.
It's compounds.
It's compounding. It's compounding. I got it. Okay. All right. Sorry to jump in, Norma. Go ahead.
No, that clarifies it. Thank you, Mark. Okay. And Vince, your understanding is that the growth factor considered in the original 2002 EIR report considered this compounding 1% increase
That's correct.
growth factor?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Norma. Commissioner Nguyen.
Yes, I do have 2 questions. My first question is, according to the parking analysis on that report, indicated the restaurant used is 10 parking space for 1,000. But my understanding under the Santa Parking Standard, Section 41-1341, is restaurants require only 8 parking spaces per each per 1,000 square foot of flooring area. So which one is correct? The parking analysis on that report correct, or for 10 space per 1,000 or 8 spaces per 1,000?
Thank you, Commissioner. The code has been changed to 8 per 1,000, but because this is a special development zoning, we can apply different standards, and we just kept the same 10 per 1,000, given that there's gonna be some higher-end restaurants there and probably slower turnover for that type of restaurant use. It's not a fast turnover, it's more of a slow sit-down experience, so we just kept the parking at the 10 per 1,000 for this building.
So development requirement will be 10 per 1,000, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. My second question is there any requirement for handicap parking or motorcycle parking or bicycle parking in this project?
Yes, bicycle parking is a requirement. It's one of the standards in the residential standards in the SD under section 9 of the SD. So there is bicycle parking required for the project. And you mentioned also handicap parking, and that's a requirement of the building code. That is included as well.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Rivera.
Yes, I have a couple questions. I got the info as far as the affordable housing. I kind of wanted just to know some background from Monday to today, what the process was, because at first it sounded like we started the sunshine meeting with there was going to be affordable housing. We had the meeting on Monday, there wasn't. At the end of the meeting, there was, and now we're back to talking about there is not affordable housing. So just if you could walk me through the process from Monday to today, to what led to the decision. I know the numbers as far as using the fees to build parks and stuff along those lines, and if you could just walk me through that, please.
Sure. Maybe the applicant, Mr. Herrick, can better provide you some more details. I can just tell you we had a conversation on Tuesday that he had met with his team and his lending team, and they thought that the best direction for the project would be paying the fee. And he can provide more information when it's his turn to discuss. But again, the developers, whatever project it is, developers have 4 different options, and we don't dictate which option. They have the right to pick the one that works best for their projects. And each project is uniquely different, so. He is complying with the affordable housing requirements of the city.
Okay, thank you. I think that's. I just want to know if there was something that was discussed through you guys or how the decision came about. So I'll ask him.
Yeah, Mr. Herrick.
Okay. Commissioner Contreras-Leo.
Nope, my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Okay, and from my standpoint, I think we've covered many of the items that were covered in the presentation. So at this point in time, I'll hold off for any further discussion at this time. Thank you, Vince. And at this point, are we going to? Is the developer going to talk at this point in time?
Mr. Hara, would you like to speak?
Yes, I'm here. I thought you were asking somebody else. Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the Planning Commission. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. First, I'd like to just start out with a recap that once again, the building has been approved, and we have not only worked forward with the information that under the conditions already met in the past, but we have a foundation permit, and we've already started construction. But this in particular project, what we're looking at here is really pretty simple. It's the difference in adding a residential component to the commercial component that's pretty much needed in the area now. So through the findings, 60% less traffic with residential. Again, I'd like to use an example. The example would be in the commercial industry, 23 to 27 people for 1,000 square feet in a commercial building. And if the same 1,000 square feet were in the residential, it would probably be maybe 2 or 4 people. Using that, I know people keep asking about the traffic count and how much more traffic, or 18% over a certain period of time, but this just reduces it. We only have so much square footage, so the square footage would be reduced by 60% for the traffic itself, and thus it would create 30% less pollution because there's less cars, and the income to the city would be somewhere around $15 million over a 5-year fiscal analysis presentation, simply because the people live there, they work there, they utilize restaurants and all the great things downtown here. That being said, I'd like to clarify some points here. After our last meeting, the labor unions, I have had a couple conversations with them. I'm having a meeting with Ernesto Madreno, the LA Orange County Business Construction Trades Council representative, Ron Miller, the executive secretary for the Los Angeles Orange County Building and Construction Trades, and as well as their counsel, John Hanna, on Tuesday at 10:30 to work out a PLA agreement that we will all agree to go forward with this building. So that should answer that. The union leaders, I think what's really important in this, that I think that is going to be part of my PLA, is that the union leaders prioritize local workforce labor from our own area, from Santa Ana residents. So I'm going to ask them to try to utilize most of the labor that's here first in a PLA to protect and increase the workload for the building to be utilizing the Santa Ana local staff, local workforce. And number 2, the neighborhood traffic mitigation. I have agreed and increased that from the 6 neighborhoods, which include Floral Park, French Court, Willard, Washington Square, Floral, French Park, West Floral Park, and now I am also going to include, after reviewing the Logan area that's on the eastern side of the property closest to the freeway. I believe that that's probably an important area right there, just to keep that whole area freshened up and looking good and make it safe for the traffic mitigation. That mitigation was originally at $200,000 for each neighborhood and approved back when we first went through it. I have agreed to make that $300,000 or $100,000 more per neighborhood, and then an additional $300,000 for Logan. So that adds an entire value for the overall traffic mitigation of $2,100,000 to be used vis-a-vis the city to mitigate any traffic that there may be, and work with those neighbors directly. The last item would be inclusionary housing versus in lieu fees. Could probably be the policy decision of the city council. But that being said, after meeting Monday, after the meeting, I had further discussion with our lender, Credit Suisse. We discussed utilizing union labor and including inclusionary housing. They concluded that the project would not yield an overall satisfactory return on investment, as the inclusionary housing apartments run for a total time of 55 years. We thought originally that was a 10-year period, but after checking with the city, we found out the inclusionary or affordable housing goes for 55 years. And then they should I think probably there would be a couple of uses for that with the in lieu fee. The in lieu fee, we would probably be somewhere around $4.5 million in today's cost and value. That $4.5 million would pay to be used to build other affordable apartments or homes within the city. And I think most important is the city could use a large amount of this money, if not all of that $4.5 million, to support and remodel and raise the bar and quality of life in the neighborhoods that are surrounding One Broadway Plaza that are already here to increase that value of the apartments that are in the Willard area. So I think all in all, we would respectively request that the Planning Commission approve the project as recommended by the City of Santa Ana Planning staff with these substantial revisions as well from Caribou Industries developer One Broadway Plaza. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hara. Does any of the commissioners have questions of the developer at this point in time? Commissioner Cano?
No more questions for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia?
None at this time.
Commissioner Nguyen?
No, this time, thank you.
Commissioner Rivera?
Negative. They were answered. Thank you.
Commissioner Contreras-Leo?
None, thank you.
I have none at this point in time. So we will move on. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
Yes, we did receive written communication, and there were 33 comment letters received by the 5 p.m. deadline. 21 of those letters were in favor of the project. 7 of those letters were in opposition, and 5 of those letters requested a postponement of the item.
Okay. Thank you for that. We will now continue with public comments. And Madam Secretary, will you please bring the first person online?
Yes. So what's the last phone number? Okay, so the callers, we are going to allow the person with the last 3 digits, 475, to begin speaking at this time. Please state your name, your position, and your comment. Caller.
Yeah, hi. My name is Doug Robbins. I'm with the Painters and Allied Trades. I'm a representative from the Painters and Allied Trades Union. I strongly support this project. We represent 10,000 workers in the painting, drywall finishing, glazing, floor covering, and trade show industry. Many of our members live in the city of Santa Ana and are excited about an opportunity to work in a city where they live. The proposed PLA will provide that opportunity. For about 20 years, that lot has been sitting there as a pile of dirt, and this is an opportunity to build a beautiful, iconic building where that pile of dirt now sits. It will create roughly 3,000 high-wage skilled construction jobs, and I strongly urge you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, our next caller is last 3 numbers, 064. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Good evening. I'm Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council. And I will say that we did meet with the developer earlier this week. We had a very good meeting, and we look forward to meeting with him next week. And we're positive that we can come to a good agreement. It's good for the community, good for the developer, and good for the building trades. We look forward to putting local young men and women to work in our construction trades, good middle-class jobs, the kind that everybody deserves. So we look forward to working with the developer, and we wholeheartedly support the staff's recommendations. Let's move this job along so we can get a shovel in the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, next caller, last 3 numbers, 293. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Yes, my name is Bill Bonnet. I'm a Santa Ana resident. I oppose the current configuration of this development. I believe it is far too large of a mixed-use development for the pending infrastructure. I believe that the project should be approved by the voters only, since we are changing such a substantial configuration of the project. This was a project voted on by the city of Santa Ana, and now here we are changing a very substantial portion of it. and yet we are doing it without a citywide vote. The infrastructure that is being provided of $2.1 million, I believe, is woefully inadequate. I believe a budget more in the line of $5 to $7 million would be appropriate to provide infrastructure improvements all the way from our local freeways to the project site, not in the immediate area. This project has not been approved for construction because the requirement to pre-lease 50% of the building has never been met. Only initial foundation permits have been allowed, so it's not going to continue as it's currently entitled because there's not 50% commercial. It is my opinion that 50% commercial pre-lease will never be met. There's not significant demand in downtown Santa Ana, still 50% of a 37-story building. I think we all know this, and this is why there is an attempt to change the use of the building. That would still leave over 20 stories of commercial, which will not be filled successfully anytime soon. Further, downtown Santa Ana is nothing like LA Live. We don't have the large sports arenas, so we cannot compare LA Live or an upcoming Anaheim Live to downtown Santa Ana. The project needs to be de-scoped. I'm in favor of some investment in downtown Santa Ana. I'm in favor of a mixed-use project, but to put a white elephant in our historic downtown of 37 stories is simply not appropriate. I think the Planning Commission needs to de-scope this project and have the developer and the applicant revise his plans on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, next caller with the last three numbers of 114. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Yes, my name is Connie Major. I live in Santa Ana. I've been here for 40 years. Dear Commissioners, I was pleased to virtually hear that you are concerned enough about the city to not blankly accept what developer Hera is offering in order to construct his 37-story tower. Thank you for putting in more consideration of the community that will be very heavily impacted by this 37-story tower. A smaller building would be more appropriate. Please do not send this project to the City Council at this time. With the current health issues around the world and here also, it does not seem like the right time to make big decisions. I just heard that one of my neighbors who has been participating on this issue is now devastated by the death of her brother-in-law from the virus. The virus is so heavily affecting everyone, both mentally and physically, that few are wanting to deal with the city issue. Was 2 days enough time to do all the studying and research you wanted to do? Do you need more time? Wouldn't it be helpful to have an updated EIR? The 16-year-old EIR has many areas that need new studies done. The 2002 EIR took the traffic study through to 2020, right now. The new building should have a new traffic study that goes to 2038 or maybe 2040. Numerous studies show that access to parks is a key determination in the overall health of a community. Adrian Vodek, the senior VP of the Trust for Public Land, has said, quote, "You can't have a great or good city without a great or good park system," end quote. Santa Ana is park poor with not enough green park space for the number of people we already have here. By adding 415 more living units, the need gets even worse. Commissioners, let's get creative. In the Midtown area, how about converting an asphalt parking lot, demolish a dilapidated apartment complex, or put a park on top of the tower's parking structure? Thank you for listening, and use your deep consideration on how such a structure will affect the city and its people, and take the time to find ways to make it positive. Now, Commissioners, I was asked earlier today to transcribe a letter to you, and can you reset the timer so that I can read that, or do I need to push *9 again and get more again?
At this point in time, you have 3 minutes, and that's all you have is 3 minutes to either speak to the item at this point in time. So,
Right, but
reading in anything.
I have something from someone else. So are you saying I should do *9 again?
Lisa?
Or can I just go ahead for another 3 minutes with this one, with the
What-
second?
No, I'm sorry. One speaker gets one chance to speak. I understand you have a letter, and you can submit that letter to the website, and it'll be posted, and it'll be considered part of the record as well.
So I can't read this information from Sam Romero.
No,
That is
ma'am.
correct.
One
You cannot.
speaker, 3 minutes. You
All
can
right.
submit the letter. You can certainly submit the letter. Please do.
We do have the letter from Sam Romero. It is on our website, and it has been distributed to the commission.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Connie.
Okay,
Thank you.
good luck.
Okay, next caller with the last 3 numbers of 273. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Ernesto Medrano, I'm the council representative for the Los Angeles and Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council, and I'm calling to urge for support and approval of the One Broadway Plaza project. We represent 140,000 hardworking men and women from our 49 affiliated trade organizations. We think that it's long overdue. This project has been in the works for 2 decades almost, and there's no better time for it to be approved but the present. We think this historic project is going to provide about 3,000 high-wage, high-skilled construction jobs. And these jobs have a significant multiplier effect on other jobs in the area. This project, obviously being the largest and the most historic project, we think that it's a great, iconic project for the city of Santa Ana. I think the city of Santa Ana deserves such a project to have the opportunity to live and work where you're at. As Ron Miller mentioned earlier, we are in conversation and negotiation with Mr. Mike Hara. We're very confident that we could reach a project labor agreement that will provide a skilled and trained workforce, and above everything, provide apprenticeship opportunities for young men and women in Santa Ana and the surrounding community. Not everyone's going to college, and this is an opportunity to put them on a pathway to the middle class. Obviously, there will be community benefit elements such as the local hired veteran preference, helmets to hard hats. And obviously, these are career jobs that have health care and defined retirement plans. People don't have to go on to public services. Our folks are able to provide a good income and provide a good taxpayer base. The other thing, too, is we provide a continuous flow of work without disruption and interruption through a no strike, no lockout provision. So, again, I want to urge the members of the commission to approve this project so it can move forward to the city council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernesto.
Okay, next caller with the last 3 numbers of 520. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Yes, my name is Roy Afusia. I represent the Sprinkler Fitters, UA Local 709. I'm also a resident in Santa Ana, California for 19 years. I'm here to support the One Broadway project in Santa Ana. This project will be the tallest building in the county. To build a project like this is going to take a skilled and trained workforce, a safe environment for the construction workers, local hires, the Santa Ana and other Orange County residents. And let's not forget our veterans. They could also earn a living wage. And many of these projects that are built in Santa Ana or around the country that the construction workers can't even afford to live and even shop there. The Building Construction Trade Council has that in place. And rather than spending hours away from home, our members would love to work closer to home in the community so that they may have more time to spend with their families. Once again, I thank you, and we're in support of this project. Thank you for your time and service. Let's not forget to show them that, hey, Santa Ana is going to be on the board. So let's get this going. Thank you.
Caller, before you
Thank
leave
you, Roy.
Roy, before you leave the line, I'm sorry, may you please, can you please spell your last name?
That's A as in Apple, F as in Frank, U, S in Sam, I, and A as in Apple.
Thank you. Okay, next caller Next caller with the last three numbers of 243. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Hi, yes, my name is Luis Andres Perez. I am the political director for UA Local 582. I am asking the planning commissioners to please approve the project for the 1109 North Broadway in the One Broadway Plaza District. Approving the project would finally allow construction. This is a 16-year project on delay, really. It would create 3,000 high-wage skilled jobs, and more than anything, the 37-story project would be the greenest building emerging as a flagship for downtown Santa Ana and all of Central Orange County. During the construction process, this project will use as many recycled, regional, and renewable materials as possible, with the storage and collection of these recyclables part of the program to divert most of the waste from landfills. In addition, the building will be highly efficient, using LED lighting fixtures, state-of-the-art HVAC systems, and water reduction methods with low-flow toilets. Our members at UA 582 have worked more than 1 million hours in the last 2 years consecutively. Part of that comes through having positive, productive relationships. This project is committed to provide alternative on-site transportation using low-emitting and fuel-efficient vehicles, and promoting public transit through the use of the Santa Ana Regional Transportation Center. More than anything, it will improve the blighted actual zoning of what currently is a plot of land. So once again, I am urging the Planning Commission to approve this project. Thank you very much.
Caller with the last three numbers 505. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Hi, my name is Robert Escalante. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Robert Escalante. And first of all, I just want to let you know that I am a property owner in downtown Santa Ana and have been since 1983. I am on my third mayor. This developer has continued to support and support this city and its community more than anyone in Santa Ana's few accomplishments come to mind. Here are a few. He has built a tennis court facility on the east side of Santa Ana for the residents of that immediate community. This developer also bought a condemned building on the corner of First and Main and turned it into Original Mike's restaurant for the entire community to enjoy. This developer also, Mike Hara, built the Orange County School of the Arts. And when they could not pay their school teachers' salary, it was this developer, Mike Hara, that presented the director with a six-figure check. I could go on and on of this one man's intentions. He didn't have to do any of this, but he did. Is there anyone in Santa Ana that you can compare him to? My guess is probably not. We, as property owners, should be grateful that the likes of Mike Hara have graced our city with this vision and energy. He gets it. He's not here to hurt our business community. He's here to help our business community. In turn, we can help our residential community. In fact, millions of dollars will be raised in tax revenue to support our public agencies, which otherwise that tax burden would be put on the small businesses. Again, I'm Robert Escalante. As a property owner in downtown, I'm also the past founder of Fiesta Marketplace. I also served on the Civic Center Commission. I also served, and I was appointed by our mayor, Dan Young, at the time. I also had served on the Heritage Museum Board. I'm in full support of One Broadway Plaza. In closing, I would just like to say what a great time to be on the Planning Commission and be a part of such a great project. This is something you'll be able to brag about to your kids. Again, my name is Robert Escalante, and I thank you, our Planning Commission, for putting this time and effort into a great project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, next caller with the last three numbers of 413. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
I'm sorry, good evening. My name is Adrian Esparza, and I'm a business manager with Laborers Local 652 here in Santa Ana, California. And I proudly represent a little over 3,000 members with a good portion of about 2,000 that live in the city of Santa Ana. And with that being said, this project would provide good paying jobs. We can provide skilled and trained workers and get the project done on time and under budget. So therefore, I want to thank the Planning Commission for moving forward, and I wholeheartedly wish to make the right decision here and go forward to the project, One Broadway Plaza. Thank you for your time.
Okay, caller with the last three numbers 802, please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioners and Planning Commission. My name is Doug Mangione. I'm a representative of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers here in Orange County. I am calling in support of the Commission's recommendation for Item 1, One Broadway Plaza. IBEW provides 2,400 skilled and trained workers to our signatory electrical contractors. IBEW 441 was also established in 1928 right here in the city of Santa Ana, and we have been serving the Orange County region ever since. Our apprenticeship program is also based here in the city of Santa Ana, associated with Rancho Santiago Community College. We currently provide training to over 400 apprentices, most of whom reside in Orange County and in Santa Ana. We are very, very local. The city of Santa Ana is fast becoming a culturally diverse, vibrant urban setting. This project will be a major enhancement to what the city is becoming. The city is embracing the future, and this project is also embracing the future. This will be an environmentally conscious, state-of-the-art building built to high LEED standards using the latest energy efficiency technologies. IBEW is in the forefront of teaching and establishing curriculums for teaching for those technologies. Our members look forward to working on this. I would also like to say, when we come out of this COVID-19 pandemic, we're going to have to get this economy rolling again, and One Broadway Plaza is as shovel-ready as any project to get started immediately. I support your recommendation. Thank you for taking this up and listening.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, next caller with the last three numbers 883, please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Dickman, and I'm a resident of the historic French Park neighborhood. And I have a couple of comments. The first one is the items in the planning director's chart should be added to the formal mitigation measures to be adopted for the project as a legal requirement. Also, and in response to a previous caller's comment, I also agree that the amount of mitigation funds that have been set aside for the project are insufficient, woefully insufficient. In fact, I would say it almost seems arbitrary that the city or the developer both have picked a number and then increased the number, and it has been about 18 years since the first number of $200,000 was stated to try to provide mitigation for all of the neighborhoods. So I would like to suggest that the planning commissioners give a recommendation to the city council that the amount of funds to be set aside for each of the individual neighborhoods for traffic mitigation should be analyzed first before a number is accepted. It could be high, but it also could be very low. In fact, the number of mitigation dollars needed may be more into the several millions of dollars instead of the $2 million and change. So I'm very concerned about that. I'd also like to say that I have made comments, and I believe others had done it similarly, that we are grateful that the applicant is agreeable to include the Logan neighborhood as part of a neighborhood that would receive some mitigation funding. But I would also like to encourage the planning commissioners to discuss asking for funds for the Lacey neighborhood and the downtown neighborhood, in addition to the others that have been mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three numbers 316, please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Hi, my name is Jesus Rodriguez. I'm a current resident of Santa Ana, California. Been here for about 7 years. I moved around in different jobs and got into welding, so now is the best time for me to get opportunity to get into the apprenticeship program with the opportunity here at Broadway Plaza. So I'm all for the to vote for it so I can get a golden ticket into the next industry that I'm trying to get into, which is ironworking. This would be the best opportunity, not just for me, but for a lot of other young residents here that are ready and willing to work into a new industry with a better future for me and my family. So thank you for your time and thanks for listening. Hope you guys go through with the vote on the Broadway Plaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three numbers.
Thank you, Jesus.
Next caller with the last three numbers, 211. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Good evening. My name is Eduardo Reyes. I am a member of IBW Local 441. I grew up and I live in Santa Ana. I have been looking forward to this being built for quite a long time. I have been keeping track of the developer and everything he's done around Santa Ana. I remember seeing the empty building. It used to be a car dealership down on First and Main. And we built it into the bar that it is now, which is like a local standard for Santa Ana. So it's very inspiring to me. I've been there several times. I really would hope you guys to move forward with the development of this building. I remember several times walking by and looking at the expectations of what this building could bring to Santa Ana. You know how it still is the seat of Orange County. It will become kind of a mixed building for our living residents and a lot of attorneys. You know how it is still sitting for the federal and the courthouses. It will be occupied primarily because of the attention it will bring from this. It will be great for all the local residents that are in all the buildings. Great. We really are for this. A lot of people have said, you know, that we are taking a big hiccup because of the coronavirus. It won't be a great thing to just jumpstart the economy again. You know, Santa Ana. We look forward to building in this building because I used to walk around the whole thing on Broadway and Main Street several times. Just imagine what a great spot it would bring for the development. I really foresee a lot of development coming out of that. The trickle effect from such a big, mega extensive building will be essential to the development. I really that's what we do with this building and let's get it pictured. And for players, you're the perfect one. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good night.
Sir, before you go, can you please repeat your first name?
No, Reyes.
Reyes? I'm sorry. Are you on speakerphone?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you? It's okay if you can remove us off a speakerphone and repeat it just one more time for the record.
Eduardo Reyes. IBW Local 441, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next and last caller, I'm sorry, the next caller, last three numbers, 937. Please state your name, your position, and your comment.
Good evening. My name is Mark Bethune, and I am an Orange County resident, business owner, and frequent visitor to the lovely city of Santa Ana. I've actually known the developer for 20 years, both professionally and personally. As a local business icon, philanthropic leader, and the only person ever to win the prestigious William Spurgeon Pioneer Award, Mr. Harris should be applauded for what he's done and what he is doing for the city of Santa Ana and Orange County. It does seem like this project has been going on forever, and I am 100% in full support of finally moving forward. If you can imagine the skyline with the beautiful 37-story building in downtown Santa Ana, 3,000 new jobs, a 2 to 3 year build, with all the benefits that this will bring to the city, all locally ordered materials, jobs, housing, taxes for the city, Mr. Harris should be welcomed with open arms, and let's get this thing built. On top of everything, it's privately financed. It's a no-brainer. With a mixture of residential office space, this will mean a lot less traffic, than if the building was solely used for office space. How great being able to live and work in the same place. I am in full support of One Broadway Plaza moving forward. We should allow these changes that Mr. Harrow is requesting. Mixing workspace and residential is the way forward. Santa Ana will be like downtown LA and something you should all be very, very proud of. Once again, my name is Mark Bethune, and I fully support this project moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And the last caller that we have is last three numbers, 361. Please state your name, your position on the matter, and your comment.
Yes, this is John Hanna, and I am with the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. I spoke Monday, and I won't be too long. I want to join in the comments that Ernesto Medrano and Ron Miller and some of the other construction trade members spoke to you about. But beyond that, I think there were some concerns that maybe this is not the right time. I agree with the caller who said this is exactly the right time. This is, we're going to need that economic stimulus in this community. This project will do it, not only directly from the income that's generated by the 3,000 construction workers, many of whom will be Santa Ana residents, not just from the businesses that will be moving in, not only them, but some of their workers who will be able to work where they live, but the residents there also. And this will spin off some other commercial and I believe quality residential work in Santa Ana that will bring us the investment money we need to tackle the problems that run from a constant budget shortage, scrambling for money in our council, to dealing with affordable housing, dealing with the park situation that one of the speakers talked about. It will allow us to provide some funds perhaps for the school district, and whether it's a pathway in construction from Santa Ana School District into one of the building trades, or it's a pathway into art or some other way. This project will bring quality people, quality businesses into town that will help pay. So as one speaker said, it's not the small business person who's going to get taxed to death, and it's not our residents who are going to get taxed to death. This project will generate funds. I want to just say that Mr. Hara, he's a Horatio Alger type guy. Rags to riches, try, and, you'll succeed. He's an old carpenter from Local 2361, and he's worked his way up to life, and now he's combining his business as well as giving back to the community. One speaker talked about some specific projects. I think this project will be a model, and it will return Santa Ana to what it was 100 years ago, which was the center of Orange County. It's not going to just be Anaheim.
Caller, you
so
have
I would
15
encourage,
seconds.
recommend support of the staff's recommendations, and urge the commission to support that.
Thank you, John.
Chair, there are no other callers who have indicated they would like to speak.
Since there are no other callers at this point in time, we will close public comments, and we will bring it back to the commission. Does the commission have any final questions for staff at this point in time? I'm going to just jump in and ask one question. I would like to have Min or Vince talk to the fact that there was a comment made about the 50% leasing that needed to be done on the project. I'd like to get some clarification on that from either of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Mintai. The question from the caller and the reference of the 50% condition was a condition of the original development agreement that was approved by the City Council in 2004. based on the file records in 2010, the council actually took action to waive that requirement. However, regardless of the waiver, the development agreement expires in 2012. With the expiration of the development agreement, that condition no longer applies.
Okay, thank you, Min. I'll now ask each of the commissioners if they have any final questions of staff. Commissioner Cano.
No more questions for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia.
Not at this time.
Commissioner Nguyen.
No question. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera.
None at this time. Thank you.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo.
None. Thank you.
Okay, I asked my one question. Having said that, is there a motion to approve this matter? And please, when you make the motion, state who you are.
This is Commissioner Ken Nguyen. I'd like to make some comments.
Okay, go ahead.
I like what Mr. Mike Garrett has said during the last Land Commission meeting as well today. I appreciate his interest in continuing investing and developing in Santa Ana. And also, I understand his difficulty. I believe that the residential component is much better for traffic mitigation than 100% a commercial component for the project. And regarding to the affordable housing, in my opinion, that the city could use $4.5 million development fee to build a much-needed affordable housing elsewhere in the city. And I understand and support the applicant request for the approval amendment to the provision of the specific development number 75 to allow residential use in addition to the office and commercial use due to the shifting of economic trends and the housing need. In my opinion, is a reasonable request. For that, I would like to place a motion to adopt the resolution and the ordinance as conditioned.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second to Ken's motion?
Second.
Second.
Contreras-Leo.
Contreras-Leo, second. Okay. At this point in time, is there any other comments that we would like to make or questions we have of staff or anything of that nature? I'm going to do one last roll call on that if it's okay. Commissioner Cano?
None. Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Mark. This is Norma Garcia speaking. I appreciate the developers' work along with the staff's work in the last couple of days to answer our questions. I still remain concerned about two main issues. One is the affordable housing, the lack of affordable housing units in the project, and then the in lieu of money's not being committed to specifically, whether it's green space or other items. So it's not, we don't have a definitive answer of how those funds would be used, and we don't have affordable housing either. I think that's a big question mark that remains open, and I would prefer to have concrete plans for that. Secondly, I think that in speaking with staff earlier today and some of the answers and comments that were made today, I think it's become very clear to me that the EIR and the addendum may not be truly addressing the reality today. And I thought Ms. Connie Major's point earlier today was a good one in terms of, usually these reports do project forward a decade or two, and we're not doing that. Or at least I didn't hear staff address that point. So I remain concerned that we're not truly addressing how we would mitigate traffic, issues today.
because we didn't do that comparison in the addendum, even though apparently it looks like we do have raw numbers from Public Works as recent as maybe a year or two ago. So those are two issues for me that remain factors in my thought process and how I will vote today. Thank you.
Okay, can I just build on the comment of Commissioner Garcia, and just, I think you had 2 points. One was the EIR and traffic mitigation, and then the other one was the in lieu dollars, where does that go? Can staff answer that question at this point in time as far as in lieu dollars? You know, if they are received, do they go into a budget that is strictly for affordable housing, or is it money that it can be spent on a number of different things?
Yes, this is Lisa, the City Attorney's Office. The in lieu fees pursuant to our Housing Opportunity Ordinance would go into a pot of low-income funds that will then be, what the city does is does an RFP for developers to bid to do low-income development projects, and that's what that money goes for. It's not right now a specific project. It goes to the pot of money.
But the money is, go ahead, Norma. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks. That even, and I appreciate the clarification, but it raises another concern for me because it's, I think I heard some comments today about, oh, well, this money can be used for this or for that. If it's strictly for affordable housing, then we do have other community needs not being addressed, and I think it's an opportunity to do that.
Okay. Let me then build on that one too and say, Min or Vince, we've made a motion, we have a second. If we would like to make further recommendations to the council upon the vote, how would we make those further recommendations? How would we get them included into the vote?
Mr. Chair, what you can do is seek an amendment from the motion and the second, whether or not they're agreeable to any proposed amendment to the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Garcia, would you like to request an amendment to the motion at this point in time?
Sure. Thank you, Mark.
Can I make a question? It goes to that amendment.
Yes.
But do we want to just keep it to if the monies are truly going into a pot, do we also want to say affordable housing or parks, green space, or do we just want to define it for affordable housing, the recommendation?
The in lieu fee is specifically pursuant to the Santa Ana Municipal Code for affordable housing.
Okay, so it can't go towards green space.
Correct. No, there are probably park fees that he would be paying in connection with this project as well, and that park fee money would go to parks.
That is correct. He will have to pay park fees per bedroom, per unit and per bedroom.
And what's the park fee? Do we know what the park fee is going to be at this point in time?
Oh, you're looking on the low side around $3,000 per unit. So 3,000 times 400 units will get you at $1.2 million.
Okay.
That's probably the low end.
Norma, would you be comfortable making 2 recommendations?
Sure, Cynthia.
Okay.
So
thanks.
Thank
so
you.
you're going to
the park fee is automatic. The park fee is automatically part of the project. Sorry. The park fee is automatically part of the project.
And Lisa, how do there's a park fee, and then how is it determined where those funds will be spent? Is it specific to this geographic area, or is it at the discretion of the city?
I'm not honestly clear on that one. I thought it was supposed to be at the discretion of the city to the most needed parks, where it's most needed.
So this is Mintai.
I think,
Mr. Chair, I'll be able to answer that question. Based on the current ordinance, the park fee can be used for park acquisition and park maintenance and development of parks. That fund does apply to this project, and once collected, it can be applied anywhere citywide. The ordinance does not strictly stipulate any fund from a specific project to be spent to a specific area. That is a decision by the city council, and if the city council choose to do so, they can apply dollar from this project to this area, but that's really at the discretion of the city council.
So, but we can make that recommendation, Min, correct?
You certainly can make that recommendation as part of your recommendation.
So you could make it specific to the area, the surrounding area, Norma. You can do that if you'd like.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So Norma, are you okay at this point in time with your?
I
you want to
appreciate
make
that those would be issues addressed in the recommendations. I make a friendly amendment as to those points that we just raised, and if somebody can help me just list them out. I think one was the park funds would be allocated specifically to this geographic area to address the needs of this community. And the second one, I've already, affordable housing allocation, but that's already part of that allocation, correct?
Right. The affordable housing is there, and it's all designated for affordable housing. Your concern was affordable in lieu dollars being used for a number of different things, and it isn't. So, but you picked it up by saying with the park funds, you want the surrounding area to be first right of refusal, so to speak, and that's the two amendments you'd like to make.
Correct. I mean, I would also, although I suspect this will be rejected, I would truly consider and would want to see a new EIR that really addresses the traffic mitigation issue. I don't think that what we have does enough to satisfy my concerns on that.
If I may comment on that and just say that the traffic mitigation activities will all be put together as a once everything goes through and is agreed to, then I believe that all of the traffic mitigation activities will be initiated once the project is approved, and that should be the real-time method of updating the traffic mitigation requirements for this project. Vince?
Mr. Chairman, the mitigation, you have 24 mitigations, Tig? Yeah, brother, those are applicable now, and he'll start the applicant will start working on those probably when he pulls building permits. It's all a matter of phasing the construction, or he'll pay a fee to bond for all those improvements and have them all done before the project's done, which is somewhere around 28 to 32 months of construction. So if any mitigation measures that are going to be amended, modified, need to be done now at this time, because again, all those mitigation measures in there are for a much more intense project than what you're going to recommend tonight, it sounds like. So any proposed changes?
Yeah, and I think that's my concern, Vince, is that I'm not entirely convinced that it's a much less intensive project today.
When you consider the development that's occurred.
Raw numbers versus what this project would have been 18 years ago. That's or 16 years ago. That's really my concern, is that we're not really looking at comparing apples to apples here. That it may be the same, but we don't necessarily know that because of the time that has transpired. And I think, we've discussed before that generally these types of developments do not take this amount of time, and so, this is a rare, this is an exception to what you normally see in these kinds of developments. So I think the timing issue is a concern.
And the best I can respond to that is that we did study the CEQA guidelines. We studied legislature, the current law, plus court cases, and we've determined that the addendum is the proper document for this project.
Yes, the vehicle miles traveled study that was performed is the new traffic analysis that is performed, and it did find that this would actually have a lesser impact, so it's not a more severe impact, and that's why we determined that the addendum for the EIR was the proper tool, along with the consultant that the city used and hired.
Norma, do you have any other comments you'd like to make, or any?
No, I think I've expressed both my thoughts and concerns, and I appreciate everybody's feedback. Thank you.
So,
Mr.
Sarah?
Chair, I'd like to second Commissioner Garcia-Guillen's amendment to the first motion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think the procedure at this point is before Commissioner Nguyen needs to be seek as to whether or not he's friendly to the amendment, and then.
Right. I agree. So, Commissioner Nguyen, do you accept the friendly amendment?
I would like to hear that amendment again. I do understand of the affordable housing as well as the Part B involved, but I'm not quite clear about the traffic mitigation.
So
I thought the applicant have indicated will be paying $2 million fee, some sort of fee for traffic mitigation for the project. Is that understand correctly?
Yes, $2.1 million for traffic mitigation measures.
Right.
Plus the measures that were already in place from the original EIR.
So Ken, would you like to hear the amended?
Yes, please.
Madam Secretary, do you have the friendly amendments that Norma has made?
So it's essentially, my summary is that the proposed amendment is to recommend to the City Council that the park fee that is to be collected from this project to recommend that amount be allocated to park improvements in the adjacent area to this project. And then the second is a request for to direct staff to prepare a new EIR study. That's basically what I heard.
Norma? Commissioner Garcia, do you?
Yes, that sounds correct. That's correct, yeah.
I would agree with that.
So, all right, so you'll take the friendly amendment on it. Okay, sounds good. So Ken has accepted the friendly amendment. Cynthia Contreras-Leo has.
Before we move forward with the action, I just want to share that the second amendment, which is the preparation of the new IR, means that this item right now cannot be forwarded to City Council. The project will have to go back to the point of beginning where we need to study the impacts, update all of the information with a brand new EIR. That's what that second recommendation means.
That is correct.
So it stops the process at this point in time?
If you're asking for a new EIR, then you cannot make the recommended action of item number 1, which is adopting or recommending that the council adopt the addendum to the EIR. So there would be no further action on this item if you were to say that you want a new EIR at this point.
Did we ask for one?
Norma
didn't see-
mentioned that in her comments, and that's why Min mentioned it. I didn't know
But
if
it
that was
wasn't
part
part
of
of
her
the
motion or
amendment.
not.
It was not part of
Norma.
the amended motion.
Right.
So the two amendments that we discussed were, one, the affordable housing issue and funding, and the second was the park funds going to the designated geographic area where this particular project is going to be built.
Correct.
That it would be funds to either improve and or build new parks in the area, green space, we called it. And the third, and those were the two amendments that Cynthia seconded. The third issue was the EIR and traffic mitigation concern, which I do not believe, which I would, I mean, I think that is the ideal situation. But I don't know whether or not that I would propose it as a third amendment and see if there's a second on that.
This is Commissioner Rivera. Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
So as far as the affordable housing, I don't think that needs to be an amendment. I think we're only looking at the geographical area. We already discussed that the in lieu fee, the dollars go to a pot that's for affordable housing only. So that's already established. We don't need to make an amendment to put it into affordable housing. It's already in affordable housing. So I think that's what we were discussing earlier. So I think the only thing we're looking at is the park, either addition of a new park or adding money to fix the other parks in that area, but mainly the geographical area, something for money for that geographical area was the main one we're focusing on, or that we were talking about, and then the other one was the other part of the traffic that you were making, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to understand that, because I was like, why, I wasn't sure why we were still talking about the affordable housing. I thought that was something that was already
Great.
to a pot.
Good point, Felix.
It just said
Good
because I
point.
think there was a confusion when there was two initial amendments and there was clarification, so that's, I wanted to clarify that.
Okay, perfect.
So the clarification right now is we have one amendment at this point in time with regards to the park funds.
Correct.
And then with regards to the EIR, at this point in time, we don't have a recommendation on that.
I would recommend a second EIR to address the
A
concern.
second EIR or a new EIR?
I would say a very specific, at the very least, EIR that would compare apples to apples on the traffic issue.
But then if it's not an EIR, it's specific to traffic. I mean, can we make a recommendation that we want to have, how the mitigation plan will be handled, and I think the one comment that came out from one of the callers, I think it was Jeff Dickman, his comment was that, mitigation may not cost just $2.1 million. It may cost $2.5 million. It could cost $5 million. We don't know what that cost is going to be. But, the question is, how is that going to be handled between the developer and the city? And how do we ensure that the mitigation plan that's being put forth at this point in time takes care of everything? And I think if we make just a recommendation to the council to say, this is what we recommend that we understand the costs and we understand how we handle it moving forward, rather than create another EIR specific to one element of the project. And I think that allows us to move forward, if I'm not mistaken. Min?
Based on my understanding of what is being asked, it sounds like that the commission is wanting to evaluate the traffic improvement under mitigation 17, which addresses the 6 neighborhoods, and that potentially the $2.1 million may not be adequate to cover the cost should there be additional implementation be required, and that you want to recommend that that amount be reviewed and based upon the study as a result of the study, and not necessarily put a cap on it at this time. Is that my understanding? Am I correct?
Yeah, it's just a recommendation to look at the study thoroughly, make sure we've covered every element that was outlined in the EIR, in the addendum to the EIR, and then if there's have some kind of remedy between the developer and the city to come up with any additional funding that needs to be done in this particular project. I think if I go back to the developers agreement, I think it's besides the I think it was at that point in time it was really only about $1.2 million for the 6 neighborhoods, but there was $12.8 million in traffic mitigation for this project, and that was represented in a number of different areas. So the fact is that is taking into consideration the increase in the per neighborhood fee from $200,000 to $300,000, along with the additional spending that was already outlined, is almost $15 million, $14 million currently put aside for traffic mitigation. And I think all we're saying is that we recommend that there's a thorough understanding and review of traffic mitigation moving forward based on today's conditions. And I guess hearing what everybody has said, hopefully we don't have to hopefully we're not asking for a new EIR.
So as a point of clarification, in the EIR, the only set fee for the mitigation is the set fee for the neighborhood, for which the applicant has agreed to raise the amount from $200,000 to $300,000 per neighborhood, and that's pursuant to mitigation number 17 of the transportation. The rest of the mitigations are performance-based, where the mitigation is to have a specific task done and a specific mitigation be implemented. So the cost is really not a factor of the mitigation, but rather just to make sure that the implementation get implemented.
Okay. So, Norman, do you have any comments?
I don't think so.
What's that?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. Commissioner Rivera, do you have any comments at this time?
No, I don't have any comments. If we could just, I guess, just repeat what the motion is and the amendments, and then
Okay.
continue on.
Madam Secretary, can you repeat the current motion and everything else and all of the amendments?
So, in just listening to the comments, we have a motion. There was an original motion by Commissioner Nguyen, and it was seconded by Vice Chair Contreras-Leo. Then Commissioner Garcia presented a friendly amendment that included allocating the park fees to the adjacent geographic area. There was also some discussion about the affordable housing and a new EIR, but it sounds like you do not want to include that as part of the friendly amendment. So if that is the case, then the friendly amendment would just include the allocating the park fees to the adjacent geographic area. Is that correct, Norma?
Mark, I thought, and maybe I'm incorrect here, but I thought I heard that what we would also do was a specific traffic study, and I know Min addressed that, but and understanding the $12 million that were part of the original development agreement per Mark's comments, and I think that, did we lose that, Mark? I mean, I
Did
would
we
want
lose
to
that?
include that as an amendment. Yeah, and I would like to include that as an amendment to the motion as well.
So what
Mark,
is,
can I ask a question, Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Cynthia.
Can we make two motions, two different votes then? Can we vote on what's on the table now? Vote with one with the asking for another mitigation traffic study?
So do we have a motion and a second with the friendly amendment to add the park fee being applied to the adjacent geographical area?
We have that right now. Yes, we do. It's been accepted. The first one's been accepted as a friendly amendment by Cynthia and by Ken Nguyen.
So you have a
that is
motion and a
taken care of.
second at this point, right? You have a motion and a second to approve
and we
all
have a
three of
friendly-
the recommended actions, and the amendment was just to add that the park fee be applied to the adjacent geographic area.
Right, and my conversation was to make sure that we understood and used the traffic mitigation plan that is part of the EIR, part of the amended EIR. Use that as the plan, as the tool moving forward to handle all the traffic mitigation with this project.
Right, so the
And I guess
MMRP is still in place. The MMR mitigation monitoring reporting program is still in place, and then the developer agreed to add one additional location and $100,000 per all 7 of those locations.
Right, but there's also a number of points that are associated with the mitigation plan besides just that amount.
Right, but those are all still in place.
They're all still in place. So
Yes, they are.
So what we're saying is we don't have to do any amendment on that.
You don't have to. Those are in place at this point. There was some discussion about if you wanted to add or change those, but at this point, that's not in the motion at this point.
Okay, so how do we handle the question relative to whether or not the spending amount is adequate at this point in time?
Well,
As I indicated earlier, Mr. Chair, the mitigation basically they outline what needs to be done and not necessarily a cap on the amount, with the exception for the 6th neighborhood, and that amount has been agreed to. The remaining mitigations measures are performance-based to where it specify a certain mitigation to be imposed and not capping the costs associated with that.
So I think the only thing I'm looking at the end of the day, which I think Norma was looking at, was, we don't want the city to absorb a significant increase because it hasn't been covered in the addendum of the EIR.
Agreed, but as Min says, there's no caps associated with the mitigation measures.
Okay.
So those mitigation measures have to be performed by the developer, and whatever those costs are, he will have to pay.
Perfect. That clarifies it from my standpoint. I think that
It does.
answers
Thank
the
you.
question. Does it answer your question, Norma?
It does. Thank you, Mark.
We're good. All right, great. Thank you. All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to go through each and every one of the commissioners one more time. We have a motion on the table. We have a second. We have a friendly amendment that has also been accepted with regards to the park funds. One friendly amendment. Commissioner Cano, any further comments or questions?
I just had the same concerns as Commissioner Contreras, and so I'm glad they were addressed. And with that in place, I do feel comfortable voting an aye for this project.
Good, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Commissioner Garcia?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Nguyen?
No further.
Commissioner Contreras-Leo?
I'm sorry, my phone went away and came back. Did you ask for final comment?
Final comment.
I'd just like to say that more than anything, I think this project is great progress for our city. I hope that timelines are taken into account. The quicker we can get this project done, the better the area will look. Otherwise, those are all my comments.
Okay. My comments basically, I think it was said from a number of the people who called in. Mr. Hara has been a driving force on a lot of things going on in the city, and I think that's been that's appreciated by many. I also think that what was said by several other people that we're in this pandemic situation, and I know it's a tough time for everybody. And the fact is that when this is over, we'll need some kind of stimulus, some kind of way to get things going. And I can remember back in 2008 when the school district wanted to do a bond, and everybody was saying, "Why would you want to do a bond? That's crazy." And the fact is that it was the right time to do it because there was no building going on, no construction going on, and so when the bond passed, so did a lot of jobs come about because of that. And I think we had 2,000 or 3,000 jobs that came up, and it was a stimulus to an economy at that point in time in 2008 that was just hanging on with a thread when it came to housing and everything else. I think this is a step forward. I think that from the standpoint of what the city needs, we'll see how this plays into it. I think that it'll bring back Santa Ana as the center of the county, and I think it'll be an interesting journey. And with that, I'm going to call for the vote. Madam Secretary, would you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Cano.
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Nguyen.
I believe this project will be a landmark for the city and it will create jobs, and that also will increase revenue for the city. I am strongly support this project. Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Aye.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo.
Aye.
Chair McLaughlin.
Aye.
Commission, the
vote
motion
at this
approved
point.
by unanimous consent.
And there was one abstention from Commissioner Fan.
Yes, that's correct. Commissioner Fan has recused herself.
So there's 6 ayes, 1 abstention.
Correct.
Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you for everybody's support in the telephone calls. We appreciate it. As we said in our earlier discussion, all of the letters that were sent in will be posted and will be part of the documentation moving on to the council. I appreciate the commissioners to take the time to go through this process, working through the process of a virtual meeting, and also working through two days in 1 week of trying to get this project completed in a timely fashion. I just appreciate all of the activity that we've done at this point in time. I'm going to just open it up and just ask if there are any other comments from staff at this point.
None.
Okay. Any comments? I'm not going to go through roll call. Any comments at all from any of the commissioners?
Yes, Chair. Contreras-Leo.
Okay.
I just
Go
want
ahead,
to
thank you.
recognize our chair's effort. I really applaud everything you went through since Monday to be, talk to everyone, get everyone's ideas and thoughts together so that we can make good, sound decisions today. And I really appreciate that about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate that. But everybody on this commission, as well as staff, did a great job to get us forward. It's a team effort. Thank you, though.
I second that, Cynthia. Thank you much.
Thank you, Norma. Okay.
I'd like to make a comment as well before we end.
Go ahead, Felix.
I just wanted to say thank you to staff for supporting and kind of walking us through some of the questions that we had and reaching out within the last couple days. And also for everybody to listen, I just want to make sure that everybody goes online and gets on the my2020census.gov so we can make sure we get that filled for the city. So whoever's listening, just make sure that you guys complete that.
Thank you, Felix. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, this is Ken Nguyen. I would like to echo Cynthia's comment, for the job well done for the leadership of our chair, as well as the dedication and hard work of our staff, particularly our staff, and then especially our chair, Mark McLaughlin.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Cano, yes, thank you, Commissioner Mark McLaughlin, for all your efforts that you did putting to this date, and to staff as well. That's really appreciated.
Great, thank you. Well,
And
with that,
Mr. Chair, this is Mike Hara.
Mr. Hara, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody, the entire commission and the staff for doing such a good job and putting this together. We're all here to do good things for good people and give back to those less fortunate. And I look forward to making this city the most incredible capital city anywhere in the United States. And I want to thank everybody again, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. With that said, we'll adjourn. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled for Monday, April 13th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Well, excuse me, I take that back. I read that wrong. The next regularly scheduled meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 13th, 2020 at 5:30, and this has been canceled. Is that correct?
Yes.
Min?
Yes.
Okay, and the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 27th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for everybody's help, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, staff. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.